Okay, thanks again for your patience and for staying with us on the show TMI. We've got Dr. Don Pedro Basiki with us on the program. Dr. Pedro Basiki, thank you for joining us on the program. Well, this challenge has lingered on for such a long time. Would you say that it was underestimated, and that explains why this menace has been on for a long time, or there's some level of complicity or conspiracy to allow this issue to fledge for such a long time?
I'll say quickly that maybe everybody who was involved, or who is involved in taking charge of this kind of response, were a little bit unprepared. And it is that lack of preparedness that has gotten us to this point. For me, government is a continuum. And as a result of that, there must be a veritable, referable architecture that any government any day will pick up. Whoever becomes president of America already knows the strength and workings of the government and of the security architecture that does exist. So it is a Nigerian problem, African time, Nigerian time, Nigerian preparedness. That is where conspiracy theories. They look at the level of conspiracy theories. That one has actually overtaken the lack of preparedness, because we have to tell ourselves the truth. Being politically correct cannot save people's lives nowadays. So we have to just take it head on. And head on, what we have, looking at everything that has been going down, if you are a researcher, if you are a student, and you are doing a research on what is happening in Nigeria, you will come to one simple conclusion, that people are going rogue. A particular tribe or a particular section of the country has gone totally rogue, simply because powers that, and they are not even silent about it. If an Edoman or an Uruguman or any other tribe who are now looking like second-class citizens in their own land, like we are like indigenous aliens in our own land, if they were the ones who were involved in this, the government of the day, I mean, like, they will put the roof on them. You know, so that is what I think is evident.
A bit of
That sitting,
okay.
Yeah. We are just sitting as if we are on a potent volcano waiting to erupt at a moment's prodding. And we get closer to that very, very can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go on. It's just that it breaks intermittently. I'm sure it's a network problem. I was going to ask you this.
Okay.
The problem is here now, against the background of the reports that are coming from different parts of the country. There have been concerns that, well, some level of response have come forth from the southwest and then the southeast. Are you concerned that a similar response is not coming from the south-south? In any case, must we have a similar response, or must there be a similar response in the south-south or the Midwest, as you would love to call it, to address this issue?
The fact that we have lingered this long, I don't want to lay blames on any doorstep. It's unfortunate. It is the duty of government to provide security, ensure the security of the lives and property of the citizenry. So right now, every part of the nation is resorting to self-help, because you cannot be a part of a nation that appears, or a country that appears to have legislated away your right to exist. So, and life by nature is survival. You can only govern the living. So, for us not to have even thought about about it. Well, I mean, we've talked about it. I won't lie over that. For the past 2 years, I mean, you as a person, as a broadcaster, you have actually even aided the propagation of the call for such a security infrastructure to be in place. Don't mistake it for having vigilantes. That vigilantes have been part and parcel of our daily existence. The Bidima calls it Ude, night watching, this is there. But what is lacking is a systemic approach, an end-to-end bird's eye view, so that you cannot create an architecture, an infrastructure based on a strategy, based on outputs. Having little bands of persons carrying guns from one locality to the other is not the answer. And arming people or giving them guns or any form of thing is not also the answer, because you might just be releasing ammunition to people who much later will turn out to be rogue elements. There must be a systemic constabulary arrangement, and then there should be a defense mechanism that will be put in place to checkmate the continued marauding activities of these persons who have turned our backyards and our forests, turned our highways into platforms for rape, for desecrating our land, killing our men, molesting our children, and raping our women. So for anybody to think that is coming, we shouldn't. Anybody that person is an enemy of the Edo and Delta peoples. I keep lumping us together for only one very strategic reason: outside of emotion, outside of our shared historicity, outside of our shared communality. We must understand that on a geographical and topographical level, we share the longest boundary and have the same intercommunal relationship from the very bottom of our state to the very top. So there are Ijos in Edo State sharing borders with Ijos in Delta State, Ishekiris in Edo State in late areas like Ajoki and Ko, sharing with people in the other side in Koko. People in the Urobos are sharing areas surrounding from Ikobaoka through Orion. Same thing with the Ika until you get to Asaba. People must understand that we shouldn't just be thinking about Facebook and Instagram. We must understand that war has no pretty face. Edo says, Okwemo say, there is no beauty in war. But he that must have peace must be prepared for war. So being able to show that you are prepared, being able to show that your people are guided and guarded, is a deterrent for anybody to attack them. If Mr. Sonny Duke Okosu knows that he has 5 or 3 bullets in his hands, or he has a grenade, and he also knows Pedro has a grenade, you will be careful not to attack me with ignominy. So Biniman said, don't be offended I speak because we are the ones who are involved. They don't who are involved. We are the sufferers. Our Oromi women went on the streets, blocked the highway, because it seems as if the men are more concerned in lapping over bed covers. That must stop. We must provide security, not on a cosmetic level, but we must be able to create. I use the word directly, and you see, as a young man growing up, my first encounter in life, I served at the Nigerian Defense Academy. I served when Patrick Aziza was the adjutant of the Nigerian Defense Academy. I served there, and I understand a little thing about being strategically prepared. We cannot be talking about this on social media or on television in terms of what the nitty-gritty of that preparation is.
Okay.
But we must make our people be more aware that 2021 is not 2014. That so much water has passed under the bridge, and we that were brought up as conquerors, we are now cowering like the conquered. That must not be allowed to happen. Our leaders must be dealers in hope. They must give hope to the common man on the street. Our children are already carrying guns all over the place, but they are directing them at the wrong enemies. All over the place, they are talking about cultism, Benin, this, that. For God's sakes,
Dr.
it's the same.
Dr. Pedro,
yes,
it look as if you're sounding a bit inciting with those comments that you're making. But I just wanted you to look at this.
What is inciting there? No, you tell me.
Yeah. Okay.
Now
I'll get back to you on that, Dr. Pedro. But I wanted to get your comment on this. A very notable scholar, Sheikh Gumi, recently interfaced with bandits in some of the northern states, and he came up with a recommendation that amnesty should be granted to these guys, and that maybe compensation should be paid, just to ensure that we're able to find a way around this. What's your take on finding a lasting solution? Because the problem has become a monster of some sort. What's your take? Would you subscribe to the recommendation?
Because of the... yes, definitely. You see, what will bring peace, we should bring peace. But you see, Gumi, I was telling the friend just on the same issue, that Gumi's issue is quite different. The people Gumi met has absolutely nothing to do with the bandits in Benin.
Okay.
You know, the people Gumi met are persons who are involved in a revolt against the state, against the Nigerian state, rebels, militants, or whatever we want to call them. But they are persons who ideologically have decided to raise arms against the Nigerian state. You can call them ISIS in West Africa, you can call them Boko Haram, you can call them whatever, but they are not the ones who are perpetrating the killings in Aho, kidnappings on the Auchi Benin Ekbuma highway. They are not the ones who are cutting off people from getting from Ofosu to Benin. The only thing they have in common is that they have raised arms. The other ones are making it clear that they want to bomb cities. But these ones are looking at people. They are having an entrenched interest. They are led by the Miyetti Allah, which is different from the ones in the north. We have to understand that Boko Haram is basically populated more by the Kanem and the Kanuris, who are different from the Fufude speaking Fulani Puwe. Those are the ones that are the problem. Not even the Hausas. The Hausas speaking, yes. So the ones we are looking at are the bandits who are criminals that are kidnapping for money or seizing our land so that they will give it to cattle. That is what there is a very, very clear distinction between the people Sheikh Gumi met in Zamfara and the ones that have taken over our backyards in Ovia, in Ude, in Esa land, and are attacking people in the back bushes of Langbese and Ipilo. They are very different. They are the same horde that are killing people in Uweru, in Ugeli. They are the same hordes that have taken over swaths of land in Abavo, in Ika. They are the same hordes that have taken over the highway between Ofosu, Ubogwe, and Okada. They are the ones who are kidnapping our eminent people. They are the ones who have gone out to kill Abuda. They are the ones who have gone out to kidnap our head of service. So there is no pretending over this anymore. it would be nice to be politically correct, but will I be politically correct at the risk of seeing more Edo bodies in body bags? The answer is no. So I am just saying that we should not dissipate energy over laying blames and apportioning blames. It is time for us to gird our loins and prepare to defend the defenseless women who are in our rural areas. I am a farmer. To get to Ehoe, in Uhode, where I have my poultry farm, I have to go with security. That is not how I was brought up.
Okay.
As a young boy, this is very different.
Okay.
I am pained. In the last few weeks, if you notice, I have been very pained. But that doesn't mean this is when we started talking about this.
Yeah.
About a year ago, you hosted me on your program where we proposed the Midwest Shield. It is not a new thing. We've had a conference over this, preparing the minds of those who govern us that this will happen. Not because we are Nostradamus or we are too intelligent. No. The reason is just that the indices are there. And we cannot continue to wallpaper the indices or those indices, assuming that the persons who are perpetrating and gaining from it will change. They have not changed. That is where the problem is.
Okay.
I have sat down and told myself I could just be politically correct.
Okay.
Pretend nothing is happening.
Dr.
But
Pedro,
will I be doing that until they invade New Guinea?
Let's leverage on something. I mean, recently we saw the exit of service chiefs. I mean, for long, that has been a major talking point. But of course, that is not a thing of the past. To what extent do you think that a new vista of hope can be brought to bear in dealing with this issue of killer herdsmen? Recently, we have seen some spectacular results coming forth from the army in their fight against Boko Haram. Do you anticipate such an impetus can be brought to bear in tackling this menace with a change of guard at the level of the service chiefs?
You see, like I told a few friends earlier, that the change of the service chiefs will have little or no bearing over the activities of the headsmen. That is also the truth. Because the headsman problem is more an internal security problem. Why the Boko Haram problem appears to be an insurrection against the nation, which is a military problem. Except the government wants to bring in the military into the bushes of Orion. So for me, even the fact that they were changed, many in the press gave very disparate views over who was appointed Army Chief of Staff who had just been fired a few months ago over a failure over the same Boko Haram. And then the president did not even give anybody a week to digest the removal of the service chiefs, and he appoints them non-career ambassadors, maybe for reward. But be that as it may, I think what should happen is a proper funding of the police and the localization of policing. Because if the police in Uhode are local, they will know where the bandits are. But when you bring a police commissioner who is from maybe Adamawa, and you take a police commissioner from Edo State of Benin origin and take him to Nasarawa, he's not going to function. He will just be occupying a position without carrying out the responsibilities. Because policing is communal, it's community-based. That is why Nigeria, unlike every other country on planet Earth, I mean it again, research it. We are the only ones that practice a central policing. If you go just next door to Ghana, the Accra Metropolitan Police is different from the police in Kumasi. Same thing, the police in the Gold Coast or the police at Aflao. In Nigeria, we have the Nigeria Police Force, which a police is a civilian not a force. In the UK, who gave us independence, they practice something diametrically different. The London Metropolitan Police has no jurisdiction over Birmingham, and the appointment of the Scottish Police has no jurisdiction over Wales. But yet we have heard complaints from our governors that even when it is out of respect that commissioners of police will attend a meeting called by the governor, because he has no power to hire or fire. He has no oversight functions over them. He cannot reprimand them. He cannot suggest who should be posted to him or who should not. So Nigeria is operating, I use the same word every time, like reverse osmosis. It's not done. And practical examples I keep giving it shows that unless the policeman is local, he won't be able to succeed. The success of Pario Sayande over the Anini issue shows it that we must rejig the security architecture of the country. But if the Nigerian nation is unwilling, the Constitution provides a section for the local assembly, the House of Assembly, to pass an act of parliament to give the executive the power to bring infrastructure or a system that will provide security of lives and property within that state. So if the problem is calling it police, remove police, call it something else. We must have an engaging paradigm that will be able to harness the farmers, the hunters, the vigilante groups, and create them into a system, a call and response system, an assist command structure that is under the funding of the citizens or of the government of the state, so that we can go to bed at night and sleep.
Dr. Pedro, I just want to get your attention on another very contending issue as it relates to this MENACE that we're focusing on, which has to do with the conspiracy, or if you like, collaboration with the locals. You have traditional rulers who grant access to lands, and at the end of the day, that seems to be the inroad for these guys, or some of them, to get access into maybe areas that were not given to you. What you make of this? When you drive around major roads, you find small camps here and there, and if you carry out investigation, you discover that those small camps that you see here and there, those lands were actually given by certain individuals, maybe traditional rulers, maybe, it was from what you make of this as a challenge in helping to fester this crisis?
Unfortunately, sadly, you are very correct. But you see, this is not, I don't want to start, I use the word apportioning blames. In our report, in our Midwest Development Agenda, we found out that even some of the herdsmen that are called herdsmen, this may shock you, are actually also being sponsored in part by some locals. Some of the accounts from persons who have been kidnapped, as they are being taken into the coven, wherever they are, they walk past locals, and the locals greet them. So it is crazy, but that is how it is. On the other hand, I don't also want to blame all those traditional rulers and leaders of local rural communities. Even in the urban areas, in parts of Benin City, have you ever walked along Iwe? Have you walked Lagos Street? Have you walked Idahosa? There was a day I had to carry my camera and record because they blocked the entire place. Have you been to Holy Cross on Mission Road? The two houses just behind Holy Cross, I went there with a camera. There were 40 in one room. 4-0 in one room, the very next house to Holy Cross Cathedral. So it is not a thing that only the Onojis or Enigis or are involved in. But now, I'm sure when they did that, they did not see that they were changing the demography of their locality. They might not have understood the import of that. And there is nothing wrong with any Nigerian settling anywhere. I am settled in Lagos. As managing director in that communications, I lived in Abuja. Abuja is not my father's land. But I did not take guns against the locals. So if a man sells me land in Gwagwalada, in Zuba, it's a different thing when I come the next day and I carry arms and begin to kill their children and rape their women. So I don't want to use that as an excuse. But that unfortunately had created the background. In history, we call it the remote causes. So those are remote, but the immediate is to rein in these people. And the only way to rein in these people is to make sure there is capacity at the local level. Since you say I shouldn't use words that we cite, okay. Capacity at the local level to be able to confront this menace. And the confronting of this menace can be done in these three ways. Either the federal government comes out openly to challenge and rein them in, then the state apparatus like the police and stuff goes and prosecutes whoever is thus arrested. Or what is happening across the country, the indigenous who are indigenous owners who have always inhabited those places have a right that is entrenched in the Human Rights Charter of the United Nations and also enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to defend their land and defend themselves. You cannot come into my house and kill my children and rape my wife. That is what is happening right now. And a man that allows that to happen is actually is worse than a castrated he-goat. That is what is happening.
Okay.
Our people must be made to rise up and defend the integrity both territorially and emotionally and psychologically. Because when this continues, you are actually telling the Edo man, the proudest of the Homo sapiens that inhabit Nigeria, that we are second-class citizens in our own country. We cannot be indigenous aliens in our land.
Thank you, Dr. Pedro Basiki. I'd like to get your final word on this, which has to do with this whole narrative.
Yes.
The Sultan of Sokoto, spoke recently, and he was of the opinion that this generalization is of great concern to him. Would you subscribe to the thinking that the biggest challenge is how to make a distinction between the killer herdsmen and the genuine herders who actually take their flocks around, take their cows around to feed them?
That is, the Sultan Said Abubakar is very correct. You see, by nature, human beings, we generalize. It's natural. It is almost as if, when you ask this, when you call this tribe, you say, these people, they bewitched. When you call another tribe, this tribe is not they talk true. Now, on this herdsmen issue, growing up as a young man in Edo State, in Benin City, we've always seen cows being led from place to place. But those herders, they hold sticks, not AK-47. Even where you try to protect some of your livestock, people will hold Mark IV, not semi-automatic or submachine guns, not rapid shooting 20 rounds per second. That is criminal. So the generalization, unfortunately, has been perpetrated by, I'm very sorry to say, if you listen to Mr. President when he was Major General Muhammadu Buhari, a contestant of the CPC. It is on the internet. It is on the internet. And on Liberty Radio, he made a broadcast that was shared all over, insisting that some of these people should be given the rights to graze in other people's lands, or they will run the risk of it being taken by force. That is where the problem is. So Sultan Said Abubakar III is a pity. They did not expect the amount of resistance and the public hoopla over this to reach this kind of crescendo. So they have to rein in their people. I even hope he knows whether he can rein them in. We must understand, historically, when you do history, there are two types of Fulani. There is the Kato Fulani and there is the town Fulani. And those who are mistaken that every one of them is a Muslim, they don't understand history. The cattle herders are not Muslims. The cattle herders are pagans. Don't use the word pagan, that is derogatory. They are animists. They worship the cow. That is the truth. And many of them don't even speak clear Hausa. They speak Fufude or Pue. So when the Hausa man is standing, they will not understand what the man is saying. So those are the persons that we need to rein in. Is there anything wrong if we decide to do a census? They are doing it in Lagos. In Lagos, before you get anything now, it started during fashion last time. They will tell you to go and bring a registration of your residence. Before you get anything, before you even open bank accounts. So why don't we as a state, as part of knowing who we are, who stays where, who lives where, empower the locals, empower the Enigis, the Odijonwes, empower the Onojes, so that they will know there must be a catalog, a register of who lives where and when. And then we can now take that as a census of our people. And then we will know who is the one who is infiltrating. It has come to that. They say unless the wind blows, that is when you see the anus of the fowl. And right now, the wind has gone bananas. Okay. That is the truth.
All right.
We are in dire times, and we need very drastic, very assertive, very open, hope-giving solutions and actions, so that people will now know the government of the day is having the interest of the larger Edo people at heart.
Dr. Don Pedro, I want to thank you. I want to thank you very especially for the views that you brought to bear on this discussion and the conversation going on generally as it relates to how this menace of killer herdsmen can be addressed and find a solution brought to bear. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Don Pedro.
Thank you, Sonny. God bless you.
Thank you. Okay, that's been Dr. Don Pedro Obaseki, public affairs commentator, media consultant, sharing his thoughts with us on this raging issue.